Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Welcome and thank you for stopping by. It is fantastic that you are here. Well, I trust you enjoyed my last video on the quirky band the B-52s. And through their song Rock Lobster, we looked at the fact that who cares what the song is about? We just need to have fun and go with it. And sometimes in this world of reviews and critics and looking at everything before we do it, sometimes we need to just to be surprised by things. So let's not always look what we're doing before we do it. Let's just do it and see what happens instead. So I trust you enjoyed that one. Well, we're going from there to one of the most influential guys in the music industry, and certainly from 1962. So we're talking 60 years of worldwide influence. Because this guy is not just an influence in the world of music, he is an influence in the world in general. This guy has changed the world with his songs. So Robert Allen Zimmerman was born in Minnesota in 1941. And so the guy we're talking about today is iconic music legend Bob Dylan. And because it is Bob Dylan, we're going to have to give him a couple of videos because as says he's been going for 60 years. He is known for protest songs, lyrical poems. He is a master songwriter, and he just has a way about him that the world has to take notice of every time he opens his mouth. He's got such that iconic status about him. And between 1962 and 2020, he's released 39 studio albums, 12 live albums, 20 compilation albums, 50 videos, 26 EPs, 94 singles, 7 soundtrack albums, 15 box sets, and 15 bootleg albums, including some of his rarities. He has written countless songs, and it is estimated he has sold over 100 million albums. Now, Bob Dylan has a very unique voice. It is the unique voice that just his songs need, and because he writes the songs that he sings, he delivers them with such compellingness that the world just has to take notice and listen. And certainly in the early 1960s when he started, because it says the album 1962, he was very much writing protest songs. Often it was just him and his guitar, maybe the harmonica, just captivating the world with his protest songs. Songs like Blowing in the Wind is one of the songs I can think of. In fact, I'll talk about that song in the next video I do on Bob Dylan. And we can't talk about Bob Dylan without talking about the Travelling Wilburys as well. That was a super group that came out in the 1980s. George Harrison, of course, one of the Beatles, Jeff Lynne, who is ELO Genius Royalty, and Tom Petty and Roy Orbison. They released a couple of albums in the late 1980s. Now, it'd be very sobering to think that out of those 5, Tom Petty, Roy Orbison and George Harrison are no longer with us, just leaving Jeff Lynne, who has over the last 5 years enjoyed a resurgence of the Electric Light Orchestra, and Bob Dylan are the only 2 left in that 5. And when we talk about touring, since June 1988, Bob Dylan has had the never-ending tour, and it's estimated till about 2019 he has performed 3,000 shows, which just makes him one of the most hardest working artists in rock today. So yeah, master songwriter, the world can't help but take notice of his songs. And I'm going to get onto a little bit more about his influences and achievements in the next video. But in 1965 was a significant year in music. Because over in the UK, we had the Beatles doing their things. They were performing to screaming fans. And when it got to 1965 and they were doing songs such as Yesterday, I Did Something Wrong, I Don't Know She Wouldn't Say, and Now I'm in Yesterday. You cannot sing songs with its lyrics as poignant as that in front of screaming fans. And so it has been well documented in 1965, out came Rubber Soul, very much they left touring and just focused on music. But prior to that very significant moment in the world of music, Bob Dylan had decided that he needed to release an album, Highway 61 Revisited. Now, interestingly, I've got this book here. Of course, books such as this one can be very subjective. But when you talk about the 100 most popular albums of all time, you think, oh yeah, it's subjective. But the number one album from two of these music journalists who have been doing this thing for a long time, Highway 61 Revisited, is the number one album in that particular book. And the commentary goes on to say that Dylan had decided at this point that he was going to leave acoustic behind a little bit and go electric. Now, one of the things that happened in 1965 was the Newport Folk Festival, of which Bob Dylan was the headline act. Now, before he went electric, Bob Dylan was very much the acoustic guitar with the mouth organ, just singing his protest songs and gaining a bit of a following. But in 1965, Dylan said, nah, I'm going to go electric. And at that particular festival, he went electric. Now, of course, for die-hard folk music fans, they would have been thinking, oh my goodness, what has just happened? Why is he playing an electric guitar at my acoustic guitar festival? But that particular performance, along with his album, changed music forever. And so the Beatles and Bob Dylan, and certainly a couple of years later, the Beach Boys with Pet Sounds, were influenced very much by Rubber Soul, said we need to release a exceptional album, which they did indeed. But Bob Dylan was just there behind the scenes, just doing what he did, and all of these significant acts were taking notice. And so, yeah, that's what happened in 1965. Music changed forever. And of course, the late 1960s, we had Woodstock Festival, very much electric guitars. And then we had the plethora of bands forming in the late 1960s and 1970s. Bands like Led Zeppelin, bands like Electric Light Orchestra, bands like the Doobie Brothers. It just heralded in a whole new era of music. And so Bob Dylan had a lot to do with all of that stuff, and so therefore he is a significant player in the world of music. Well, there's one particular song off of Highway 61 Revisited that I wanted to talk about today, and that is this song, Like a Rolling Stone. Now, of course, we know, in fact, many top tens of Bob Dylan put this song at number one because we've all heard the saying, a rolling stone gathers no moss. And so there's an argument to say, look, if you're continually moving, moss won't grow on you and you'll be productive for the rest of your life. But Bob Dylan took a different tack on this. He said, hey, look, if we don't stop long enough, if we don't give people a chance to get to know us and connect with us, we are going to not gather moss. We are not going to gather connection. We are not going to gather significant moments. We are not going to gather opportunities to be in other people's lives. And so why do we want to be like a rolling stone? Because one of the questions he asks in the chorus is, what's it like being on your own, being a rolling stone, being perfect the whole time, being looking perfect the whole time, trying to put on an image which people just do not know how to get into or resonate with. There's an argument to say, why don't you settle for a while and let life catch up with you a bit? That's what he's saying. What's it like being all alone? Being a rolling stone that's gathering no moss. Let moss gather. Let life catch up with you a bit. Let life resonate with you a bit. Let life become a bit more part of you. And instead of being so quick and so perfect the whole time that nobody knows how to get in there and to connect with you. Why would anybody want to be like that? But I'm thinking in this day and age of social media and you know, reality television, where everything has to be so perfect the whole time, we're losing touch with reality a bit. We're losing touch with what it means to be human and to be real, because we're more concerned with the image we portray with our world, what the outside is doing, as opposed to letting the world in with what the inside is doing. And certainly in the world of music, where image is everything, Bob Dylan was certainly saying through his songs, hey, I don't want to be like that. I want to be real. I want to connect with my audiences, and I want my music to change the world, which it certainly has done. And he can't do that if you've got this perfect image that you portray to the screen. People can't connect with that. So my argument to say is, if you think reality television and stardom is the future and the way things are, well, you lose touch with yourself a bit, you lose touch with reality, and you go into another world. And why would we want to do that, I'm thinking? Because connection happens when we are real. Connection happens when people know who we are and what we're like. So this is the challenge of Like a Rolling Stone today. We don't want to be like a rolling stone gathering no moss. We need to get messy in life. We need to let it resonate with us and connect with us, because it's in connections, in those on the spur of the moment moments that will make the difference with us. So Bob Dylan is challenging us here to say, let's not be so perfect. Let's not be so controlled and have everything so sort of worked out. Let's let life resonate with us a bit. And that's going to involve moss getting on us. But that's okay, because moss is comfortable. Moss is the thing where connections will happen. So I trust that will all be an encouragement for you today as we consider who is the master songwriter, Bob Dylan. Well, on to the clips. Now, we have to have Like a Rolling Stone, and I did manage to find the performance from the Newport Folk Festival. Just imagine you're in the audience expecting acoustic guitar, and out comes an electric guitar. Just try and put yourself in that scene and see where it goes. And so it's a live version of that song from 1965. And I thought, because Bob Dylan's been around for such a long time, I've gone from a song from the year 2000. This came from the soundtrack Wonder Boys that was released in 2000. This is the movie that had Tobey Maguire, who of course went on to be Spider-Man, Michael Douglas, who of course has done many movies, and Robbie Downey Jr. before the Iron Man days. So we're going back a little while here. This song, Things Have Changed, won an Academy Award and a Golden Globe Award. Hence the reason we've got to have this one. And hence, you know, because we're talking 1965 to 2020. So that's a long time between those 2 years, and we still see Bob Dylan writing as good a lyrics as he always had with this song in 2000. That's the official clip of that song. So I encourage you to look at both of those ones as you consider the influence and legendary status of Bob Dylan. And by the way, I've also included my last video commentary from the B-52. So if you want to recap on that one, feel free. Well, if you've come back for another video, thank you very, very much indeed. If you've hung around to the end when we looked at this legendary character, Bob Dylan, thank you very much for doing that as well. Well, that's it for today. Next time we're going to continue on with the Bob Dylan story as we look a little bit more at his influence and the significance of him. So until then, I'll catch you around.